in the Florida Panhandle.
Well, Britain, the United States, Canada, Australia and New Zealand have accused China of breaching its international obligations in Hong Kong with a concerted campaign to silence its critics. The country's foreign ministers say Beijing has undermined the rights of people in Hong Kong to elect their representatives. Most opposition politicians resigned from the territory's Legislative Council last week. Beijing gave the city government the power to eject lawmakers if it deemed them to be disloyal. Well, let's speak now to Ben Rogers, who's the co-founder of the UK-based advocacy group Hong Kong Watch. Now, earlier in the year, we must remember, China also imposed a national security law on Hong Kong. Your organisation researches and monitors threats to Hong Kong, basic freedoms, rule of law, autonomy. What is your assessment of the current situation?
The current situation is absolutely the end of Hong Kong's freedoms, the end of any last remaining vestiges of democracy. And the absorption of Hong Kong under total control of the Chinese Communist Party, turning it really into just another mainland Chinese city.
Is this one country, two systems formula that was devised back in 1997 still in any way a realistic ambition for Hong Kong?
Essentially, one country, two systems has been torn apart by the Chinese regime in the steps they've taken this year. Possibly the only way that it's one country, two systems still is that it's one country, two financial systems. But that was never the whole vision. Certainly in terms of one country, two political systems, two ways of life, basic freedoms and the rule of law and autonomy for Hong Kong, that's gone.
How often do we see statements like this, of this strength and magnitude, I suppose, issued by the members of the Five States Alliance?
In my experience, it's extremely rare, and I really welcome the fact that the Five Eyes Alliance has made this statement. I think it's really important that the free world, the democratic world, stands together and speaks with one voice on this. If countries speak individually, they can be picked off by Beijing, but if they stand together, that can have an impact. But I also think it's really important that it's followed up with action, and by that I mean targeted sanctions, coordinated targeted sanctions against the Chinese regime.
And has that ever happened before?
There were some measures after the Tiananmen massacre, but I think now is the time for such targeted sanctions, but in a coordinated way. I think if the Five Eyes countries together can follow up their statement with coordinated targeted sanctions, that could be very effective.
What is the likelihood of any country being able, at this sort of stage of the world and where we are with real nationalistic issues going on across the world, across the Western world in particular? I mean, what is the reality here in terms of five countries getting together to be able to create any form of financial sanctions or penalties on Beijing? Surely very unlikely.
I think the likelihood is much higher than it would have been even just a short time ago. I think we've seen a significant shift, both in this country but across other countries, in attitudes towards the Chinese regime in the last year because of a combination of factors. What's happened in Hong Kong, the COVID-19 pandemic and the Chinese regime's way of handling that at the very beginning, where they repressed the whistleblowers, the news coming out about the potential genocide of the Uyghurs, increasing concerns about companies like Huawei. All these factors together, I think, are causing a rethink about how we relate to China, not the people of China, not the country of China, but the Chinese Communist Party regime.
OK, Ben, we're going to have to leave it there. Ben Rogers, thank you very much for your time.